National Prosecuting Authority are briefing Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice. The briefing is about the resignation of the head of Investigating Directorate, Advocate Hermione Cronje. The committee also wants the NPA to give reasons for missing the deadline for issuing a prosecutorial decision for Apartheid-era officials implicated in the 1985 murder of the Cradock Four. Let's cross live to that.
That might be a little bit controversial in some circles, but they're not. They're used in prosecution services to deal expeditiously with matters and to bring back the money quicker. And we also, the one issue of legislative changes to strengthen the fight against corruption. We have been calling for changes to the Prevention of Organised Crime Act, POCA, for a long time. It needs changes. We have been engaging with the Department of Justice, but I think that needs to be put at the top of the legislative program. And I'm a bit concerned that this is being, that is not the case. But I need to engage more with the DG of Justice as well as the Minister to make sure that amendments to POCA are put at the top and that we move with those amendments. The other issue, there are amendments to the Legal Practice Act that are being proposed, and the process is ongoing. The NPA had made various proposals before the final draft moved on to the next stage. Regrettably, many of those proposals have not been taken into account, and we need to now engage in the normal process of consultations moving forward. So the NPA will have a lot of comments in that more broader consultation process, and we certainly hope that we will have the support of the committee in that regard as well. Chair, just in a final few issues that perhaps were not covered, on the prioritization issue that was raised by one of the honourable members, it's absolutely correct. In fact, that is what I mentioned at the media briefing on Monday, that we need to make sure, and even in the ID, that we are very, very clear in terms of our prioritization of matters. It cannot be that everything's a priority. We have to prioritize specific cases. As Advocate Rabaji said, they've done well in asset forfeiture over the years, but now we need to really hone in to the prosecution side of it and to really make sure that we prioritize for impact. We may not always be able to get after the big fish, but then there will be smaller cases that we need to look at in terms of what is the case strategy to deal with the big elephant, and what's the best way to tackle it. The issue of the Eastern Cape prosecutors that was raised, or before I get to that, the issue of percentage of cases in the SCCU, and we'll need to look at sending, I don't know if we have statistics about this, but I will speak to Advocate Koch, and if we can deal with that, maybe perhaps by way of a written response, and also in terms of the efforts to increase the capacity in the SCCU. There's a lot of work that's being done in that regard, both in terms of numbers as well as in terms of skills development. The issue of the Eastern Cape matter, we sent a report to the Portfolio Committee Chair. I think it was about 2 weeks or so ago. There is a task team that's been set up to deal with this issue. We've had an investigation, but it still seems that this matter is continuing. And so we will, the recently appointed DPP advocate is Mr. Barry Madolo, who is the DPP in Mthatha area. We've now asked him to also manage this part of the Eastern Cape, the so-called the Grahamstown division, because we felt that we needed a permanent DPP who is permanently appointed and not the acting DPPs, in order to ensure that he is able to deal better with the situation. So Mr. Madolo is working closely with the affected parties, managers, as well as prosecutors, and we're hoping to see some progress in that regard. I agree, it's just not, it's untenable that you have managers and prosecutors that are litigating in court. So I'm hoping that Mr. Madolo will be able to assist in that regard. The issue of DPP posts, I agree. These are presidential appointments, and this is part of strengthening the NPA. And I agree this has taken longer than it should have. And we are in the process. We have engaged on a process, and I'm hoping that before the end of this year, we will be able to send recommendations to the minister for all of the outstanding DPP as well as special director positions, and that those appointments will be fast-tracked through to the president, and in the early part of next year, that we should have all DPPs permanently appointed. The issue of, I just want to make sure I cover all the issues. I think I have covered, I think that one issue about the appointment, the person who will succeed Advocate Cronje, and I think it was Honorable Jele who said that she certainly hopes that it will be a woman who will replace Advocate Cronje. What I can say is that we will ensure that we replace her with the person, the best person, who has the skills, who has the ability to do this work. And in all probability, it will be a woman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Deputy Minister.
Afternoon, Chair and members. No, I just wanted to respond to one question that was raised by Honourable Hendricks to the Minister at the when the Minister was here. The Minister did respond to it about, and that was the issue of, was there a secret deal between the National Party and the African National Congress on amnesty? The Minister did respond to it by saying he had no knowledge of that. And I just wanted to add to it that I'm also unaware of it, never heard of it until it started surfacing more recently. What I am aware about is that during the negotiations, there was and I think it was in the multi-party negotiations, so it was something on public record. The National Party wanted a blanket amnesty, which the African National Congress opposed and rejected, supporting instead a specific amnesty for each crime, as is what was ultimately in the Truth and Reconciliation process. The other thing to say on this is that, yes, there haven't been many prosecutions, but there was one very high-profile prosecution just after the TRC process, and that was the former Minister of Police, and if I recall correctly, the former Commissioner of Police, who were charged with with the attempted murder of the Reverend Frank Shikane. And they were then convicted. I think it was a plea and sentencing agreement with the NPA, but they were found guilty. Now, if there had been such secret agreement, I'm surprised that neither of them raised that issue to stop being prosecuted. So to me, that's evidence that there wasn't an agreement. Chair, I just wanted to add that point. Thank you. I don't know if there were no other questions to me, so I just wanted to respond to that point. Thanks.
Thank you very much, DM. NDPP, have all your people answered all the questions? NDPP?
Sorry, Chair, we've checked. It seems like we have covered all the questions. I'm not sure if there's anything further that the committee would like from us.
Okay. Honorable Ngola, is that a legacy hand or a new hand?
From me, sir.
Honorable Ngola?
Yes, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
No, it's a new hand, sir.
It's a new hand?
Yes.
Okay, proceed.
Yes, sir, thank you very much, sir. Chair, the response we're getting from NPA as it relates to the matter of the 2nd December is that they could not complete investigations within that period of the 2nd December. And required more time to actually deal and proceed with investigations.
We can't hear you at all, Honorable Mola.
Am I audible, Chair?
Oh, no, we can't hear you.
It should be better now.
No, walk around that tree. You will.
You must water the tree.
Just walk around it.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, but continue.
How is it now?
No, very bad.
Yes, Chair. There is it relates to the deadline of the
Your line is very
They
bad.
could not complete investigation.
It's worse.
I will write on the chat. It looks like
No, it's
problems are multiplying.
Honorable Mola, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
All right, Chair, I will write on the chat. I will write.
Maybe you must write it on the chat.
I'm saying I'll write on the chat, Chair. It looks
Yeah, write it on the chat.
problems.
Okay, write it on the chat.
Yes, I will, Chair.
Okay. I think Honorable Mola is the only one. We'll just give him a minute to write on the chat so that the NDPP and her team can respond, and then we move towards closing the meeting. But as a matter of interest, NDPP, there seems to be generally within the entities that we oversight, with the NPA included, there seems to be a lack of investment in succession planning. And that is why it takes so long to fill positions once people resign. How are you going to be dealing with that issue? Because part of sustaining an organization is to ensure that there is succession planning.
Chair, I agree with you that I don't think government has a culture of succession planning. And that's a problem in government. And understanding as well that, look, what we are doing is, because we are really trying to increase the number of particularly Black African women in the organization. We are certainly trying to deal with preparing, promoting them within the organization. But as I've explained previously, prosecutors, particularly those of previously disadvantaged, they become very attractive to other entities outside of government and outside of the NPA. And we lose them very quickly. And so that has been because at the highest level, I mean, I send recommendations to the Minister for Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, the Chief Prosecutors, and very often they are African men. And the Minister comes back to me and says, where are the women? And I say to him, these are the challenges we're having. So I think the culture of succession planning is not there. And besides, they're very stringent recruitment requirements, and these are presidential appointments. So I agree with you. There needs to be a clear understanding of how we can prepare for proper successful succession planning, particularly when we want to promote and encourage previously disadvantaged people that actually get taken away from the organization very, very quickly, particularly women. So it is a challenge, and we're trying to deal with it, but it's not an easy issue. I have raised this with the minister as well.
Okay. Honorable Nwala has raised some issues on the chart. Can we give you a minute to go through them so that you can respond to what has been raised?
Sorry, Chair, I'm trying to.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. We've read that, the question. We are going to engage with the prosecutors and the investigators. And as I said, Advocate Madolo is engaging with the investigator of the family very, very soon. And we'll be able to get an assessment of what is outstanding. And then we would be able to in writing, communicate with the committee in terms of what are the possible deliverables. But I do want to say that in the TRC cases, as hard as we are trying, and we will continue to work with the families and with the legal representatives, as Advocate de Kock stressed, because that is really important. The NPA is victim-centered. I mean, the families are our, primary clients, and we need to work very, very closely with them. We are trying to bring justice for the family, and that is why it's hugely important for us to engage with them. But the reality is that in many of these cases, there probably won't be prosecutions because of various challenges, but we will make sure that we are able to, as fast as we can, and we will try to give some kind of indication of timelines, which might be tricky, but we'll try. We will try to ensure that we do whatever we can to get these cases to court. There was another question by one of the honorable members that now comes to mind about are we focusing on those issues that are those cases where families with means are actually going to are putting pressure on us, and therefore we're only dealing with that cases. I want to assure the committee that that is not the case. In fact, they are. When we dealt with the matters of the deaths in detention, as an example, there were some very high-profile deaths in detention of Mr. Agate Haffajee that was actually in the media. But from our perspective, we went and looked at all, I don't have the figures now, but I think it's around 69. We pulled all of those matters out. And in fact, the Dipale case was a matter that was then joined with the Agate. I hope I have my facts right. I'm just speaking top of my head. I don't have. So that was joined with one of I think it was the Agate inquest, because we found that Mr. Dipale had actually died around the same time. He was in detention the same time. He was interrogated and we realized that these two inquests should be joined together and dealt with. So that is the kind of efforts we're making to ensure that it's not only families with means that can get lawyers to put pressure on the NPA that we are working with, but we're really trying to deal with as many of all the cases in a strategic way, prioritizing depending on the resources. But it's certainly we want to look at all of those cases, in particular, perhaps those that do not have the resources to actually deal with this. And just on the issue of the Cradock Four matter, it's the 13th of December is the case that we have to file an answering affidavit, which we will do, and they will obviously there will be more information as a result of that. So I really want to highlight, Chair, that we do want to collaborate. I can understand perhaps that families were driven to litigate, but we need to collaborate, and let's try to move away from litigation and really work hard to work together and make sure that there's justice for the victims and families of the TRC matters of apartheid era atrocities. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think let's start by wishing Advocate Cronje all the best on her new endeavors. We thank her for the work that she has done in the public service, and hopefully we will continue working with her in the near future. But we wish her all the best in her new endeavors. Deputy Minister, on the issue of POCA amendments, I think it would be important that we can get timelines as to when are you going to be done with those amendments, and possibly when are they going to be presented before the committee. I would link that with an urgent meeting that Honorable Cronje proposed, that we need timelines, and that will be linked with what Honorable Jele raised, that the issue of the TRC cases, we need to approach them as we are approaching the issue of the one that we always meet with yourself, SIU and the Hawks. We will need to meet on a quarterly basis to get updates on the progress you are making on the TRC cases. We know that those cases, as we have said before, that each day that gets by, it becomes much more difficult to prosecute them. So we are under a lot of, in fact, they make us very anxious, because if we look at the question we must ask ourselves is whether all of us, we are in line with the preamble of the Constitution, which says, we, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustice of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land. The question that we should all ask ourselves is whether we have met that threshold in dealing with those that died in the pursuit of our democracy, And the answer is a very painful no. The answer is a very painful no. We are able to meet now and have discussions and make you accountable under a normal society, sort of, because of their contributions. The fact that their families have to pay extra to get private investigators, in addition to the sacrifice that they've already made, surely we can't say we are in line with the preamble of our Constitution. So I think the firm view is that from now on going forward, we will need to meet quarterly to get progress reports from your side. We would also, in the beginning of the year, would like to meet with the minister to get progress reports with regard to the appointment of the judge, because he has promised us that by the end of the year, the judge would be appointed, the retired judge would be appointed. It would be important that when we start the year, we should get progress reports as to how, in fact, we expect that that judge by that time would have been appointed. So by the 25th of January, we expect a return response from the minister when we come back on the 25th of January as to who the name of the judge is. And we also would like to get clear timelines from the minister hopefully he is going to ensure that the president does appoint the remaining directors of public prosecutions, provincial directors of public prosecutions. We are not a committee that believes in endeavors. We are a committee that believes in project timelines, because we can't monitor endeavors. We want clear project timelines, because we want, at least by June, we must not have a province without a provincial director of public prosecution, and all senior managers should be filled. We also expect by March that you would give us a paper on the issue of non-trial resolutions, because we don't want to agree to something that we do not understand in full detail. That should be, at least we have a draft so that we can engage with that draft. I think one of the issues is, I think also is between the NPA and the ministry. Beside poker, what are the other legislative interventions that you think that if they are made, it would be able to assist you to deliver on your mandate? Because I think for the past 2 financial years, you are the one who is also contributing to the statistics of the Department of Justice going down. When the Department of Justice performed below 50%, the actual performance, it was 51 minus NPA. It went below 50. The actual performance of the department is 70%. You minus NPA, it goes to 66. So the NPA is dragging the department down. It would be important that we have early next year, early next year, a detailed response or a briefing on this SCA judgment on the issues of the prosecutors, because it has been a point of contention for a very long time. So we would like to get a detailed briefing as to what the judgment says and your firm proposals that you are making together with the department, because I think ultimately they would need the National Treasury. And then also the issues, I think we have circulated the issue, the memo that you sent to us with respect to the Eastern Cape prosecutors. We would need to set aside a dedicated meeting to really receive now verbal briefing and to what progress you would have made, I think early next year, with respect to the Eastern Cape prosecutors. I think that will be the end of the meeting, members. I know that you need also to prepare to go to the House. Thank you very much, NDPP. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for being with us for such a long time. I know the meeting was it was a real accountability meeting, because we love our country, all of us. We want it to do better. And in fact, Honorable Breitenbach put it very well. The questions that we are asking you are the questions that South Africans, if they were here, they would have asked you. I think that was the best way of putting it. So when you see us being angry, you must know that the people of South Africa are angry or are anxious. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everybody. The meeting is adjourned.
It's just gone 7 minutes after 1 p.m.